So our topic is herbicide persistence and efficacy in soils. So we're talking about herbicides applied to the soil. These are probably pre-emergence herbicides. Please note that after applying these herbicides, only a fraction is used for weed control. The rest could be degraded. The other thing we are interested in is the length of time the herbicide is active in the soil. So how long does the herbicide remain active in the soil? Is it 1 year? Now, if it is 1 year, this may be undesirable. Three months. Probably desirable for weed control. Okay, so the other issue is persistence itself. What is herbicide persistence? It is the length of time the herbicide is active in the soil. When we apply these herbicides, we do not want them to last for too long within the environment. Otherwise, they will start interfering with our cropping programs. We just want to put the herbicide in such a way that it is just there during the period when weeds are growing, and we want to take care of those weeds. The other issue is, what is herbicide efficacy? This is the effectiveness of the herbicide in killing weeds. In killing weeds. So that is what is known as herbicide efficacy. So basically there are two things which we are interested in. The first one is herbicide persistence, how long it takes being active in the soil, and herbicide efficacy, how effective is it in killing the weeds. Because when we apply the herbicide to the soil, these are the two issues. On one hand, we want an efficient weed control. On the other hand, we do not want the herbicide to last too long within the environment. I'm going to talk about the Zimbabwean case, or some issues probably I'll ask this question: do we have residual herbicide problems in Zimbabwe? Yes, reports of atrazine residues being phytotoxic to soybean. Now, in a study done by Chilinge and Mpofu, in 1990, they detected some atrazine residues or pre-emergent herbicide residues in sandy soils at Henderson Research Station, which were being used in groundnut crop. These residues, these were being used in maize crop being rotated by groundnuts. Maize, groundnut rotations. No problems with atrazine. This was on sandy soils, although atrazine could be detected. Then in soybean, it was something else. It was quite different. So we had Mushambi, In 1993, this is D-Phil. He reported that atrazine residues or he found that atrazine residues had phytotoxic effects on soybean. Especially on red clay soils. Now in a maize soybean rotation, atrazine residues may interact with metribuzin, which is used in soybeans. Probably this could contribute to the phytotoxicity, which is, in fact, sometimes farmers do report that soybean is actually affected by atrazine residues. In another study, let me save this before we proceed. In another study done by Muoni et al. This was under reduced tillage systems. He also reported that there were no problems with atrazine in maize soybean rotations. So probably these effects vary depending on season. What I want now to talk about is the rate of disappearance of herbicides within the soil. I can probably represent it by this graph. This is time, and this is herbicide concentration. In the soil. Normally, with the time, the herbicide will decrease in that manner. And for the herbicides which we apply to the soil, normally we want to find out how long they take being active, and sometimes we use this model. We may want to find out how long does it take to reduce the herbicide dosage initially applied by 50%. Now, that time here, we call it the half-life value of the herbicide. So sometimes we may want to know the half-life of herbicides which are applied to the soils to give an indication of whether they may last for a very long time or not. So it's one of the most important parameter which we may be interested in when we are working with the pre-emergence herbicides. So what we are interested in is to find out what happens to the herbicide when it is applied to the soil. What happens sorry, what happens to the herbicide? Sorry. When applied to the soil. There are 7 processes. In fact, let me use a diagram. This is your soil. Now, when the herbicide has been applied to the soil, it may escape to the atmosphere through volatilization. The Herbicide may be lost due to volatilization, or it may be lost through leaching. So there's 1, leaching, 2, volatilization, number 3, it could be adsorption. Because we have got clay plus organic matter. So this is 3. Adsorption. 1, leaching. Number 2, volatilization. Number 3, it can remain locked in the clay and organic matter portions of the soil. Number 4, we are likely to have microbes. This is number 4. Number 5, we may have our crop the crop becomes number 5. Now the crop can take the herbicide from the soil, degrade it. Microbes can also do the same. Microbes, they can also take up the herbicide. Then we may have the sun, which provides light. We have our sun here. Photo decomposition. So light can actually destroy the herbicides. And this is now number 6. And number 7 is soil. This is 7. Here we are talking of chemical reactions. Right. So we do have 7 factors or 7 processes. Which affect herbicide. So if I may just go through what we have built in order to answer the question, what happens to the herbicide when applied to the soil? All these things can happen. Number 1, there could be a leaching process. Number 2, the herbicide can escape into the atmosphere, which is volatilization. Number 3, the herbicide can be locked or restricted by clay and organic matter portions of the soil. Number 4, the microbes can actually degrade that herbicide. And number 5, the herbicide can be taken up by the crop or plant. What we now know from our experience so far is that the phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3 can occur in the plant, crop, or microbes. And through those processes, the herbicides could be degraded or lost. Number 6, light can provide, can actually aid photodecomposition or degradation of the herbicides. Then the soil itself, chemical reactions can occur, which can actually change the herbicide. So as we put the herbicide in the soil in order to kill the weeds, all these processes, could affect that herbicide. So only a fraction will end up being used to control weeds. So we are going to explore each of these factors, how they can actually influence the herbicide which has been applied to the soil, in terms of how long it may last, also in terms of how it can be effective in controlling the weeds. So we move on to leaching, number 1. Let us talk about number 1. Number 1, which is leaching. So, what is leaching? This is the movement of herbicides downwards. It may be sideways, downwards in the soil profile. So herbicides tend to move downwards or even sideways. This is what we call leaching. Now, note, in some cases, this movement could reach the water table. This is now not desirable, and this can cause pollution. I want to talk about what can affect leaching. What is important is but before I can talk about that, okay, let me talk about the factors which can affect leaching. Because they determine the extent to which the herbicide can remain within the soil. We have a clay content. Clay content can reduce the speed of herbicide leaching because it tends to hold some of the herbicides. It can also happen if you have organic matter. It tends to reduce the movement of herbicides. So the extent to which the herbicide is going to move within the soil is dependent on clay content as well as organic content. But the physical properties of the herbicide itself is also important. Here we are interested in the solubility of the herbicide. And indeed, these herbicides vary in terms of their solubility. For example, we have got dicamba. This is urbanver, which is used to control weeds either in wheat or maize. Dicamba is the most soluble herbicide, highly soluble or highest solubility. So we expect this herbicide to be leached Probably it can reach the water table. Then we have got some herbicides which are with low solubility. We have got atrazine, followed by metribuzin, and pendimethyl. We can say low solubility. What it means is that if we spray these herbicides, they are likely just to sit on the soil surface, only to move slightly within the soil. This we have actually exploited the low solubility of these herbicides in achieving selectivity in soybeans as well as in maize. Probably here I will just remind you about the what we call the depth protection. Right. We have got weed seeds. This is the herbicide zone. Now we could have a crop this could be 6 centimeters. So herbicides, they remain here. And kill weeds, whereas the crop is going to survive. This could be soybean or maize. So this is good for metribuzin, or pendimethyl. And you can achieve selectivity because the weeds are residing in the herbicide zone, and here we are exploiting the low solubility. of the herbicides. They are not mobile. They are sitting on the soil surface because of their low solubility. So in this case, leaching is really necessary in order to protect the crops and achieve selectivity. However, depending on the soils, there are also issues to do with the erosion, soil erosion. This can move herbicide to unintended areas. Herbicides to other areas and kill plants. The other issue, how can we measure the leaching of herbicides? If you want to determine the leaching properties of herbicides, you may need cylinders. This is a cylinder. Or a pipe. Made out of plastic. Then you can make some holes. Make sure the bottom is closed and also this top part should be closed. You fill this with soil. It could be sandy soil or heavy soil. Put some water into it from the top. Then introduce herbicide from the top. After some hours, you can make sure your pipe is on horizontal position. Then you plant a sensitive crop. And of course, here you mark the distance. This could be 0 going up to, I don't know, it could be 30 centimeters. This could be your 0 centimeters going up to 30 centimeters. Here you check for phytotoxicity on the crop or on the plant. So you can really quantify either using different soil types, the likelihood of herbicide movement using this technique. So this is it on leaching, which is number 1. So leaching can be important when you want to achieve good weed control, but it should be limited movement, probably up to 2 centimeters for the herbicide. Two centimeters, it's okay. But if it goes beyond that, then it will start affecting the crop. For example, if there's high rainfall, there's a possibility of reaching metribuzin up to the position of the soybean seeds. And in some cases, it may end up killing the soybean crop, which is not desirable. Number 2, factor number 2, is loss Number 2 is volatilization. Volatilization. Now, the herbicide may be in the form of solid or liquid. Is converted into a gas. This can escape into the atmosphere. Volatilization depends. Depends on what is known as vapor pressure. And this is a physical property of the herbicides. And this vapor pressure can vary among the herbicides. So vapor pressure can actually influence volatilization process. We expect herbicides with high vapor pressure to easily escape into the atmosphere For example, EPTC. High vapor pressure. We've got EPTC. We also have a trifluoralin. These herbicides they have to be incorporated the soil incorporated, otherwise they will escape into the atmosphere. This has to be done soon after herbicide application. There's also another herbicide, depending on its formulation, that is 2,4-D. It can easily be carried by the wind. And has got problems of drift. Problem with drift. Now with this one, you may have farmer A and farmer B here. So you apply 2,4-D. Here. Then there are crops. This could be carried up to here using a drift. And this is a problem. Herbicide drift. So this can actually affect other farmers. Let me save this. Right. Number 3, we are through with the volatilization. Number 3 is herbicide adsorption. Now with herbicide adsorption, if we look at the soil, it's going to have a clay and organic matter. Right? Now, the clay and organic matter particles may carry some charges. These are negatively charged. These are electrical charges. On the other hand, herbicides can undergo ionization. And produce charged particles. Later on, we are now going to talk about how these charged particles of herbicides get attracted to either clay or organic matter, and of course influencing the availability of these herbicides. Here we are going to use a sort of a model to show herbicide adsorption. So I'm going to draw a representative particle which is charged. So let us assume that we have got this clay particle which is carrying these charges which we are putting inside. Let us put them inside. Then outside, let me label this. This is clay particle. And this is negative charge. Now outside it, maybe let me use a different color. So we have got our herbicide being attracted by those charges. Our herbicide has got positive charges. Right. So we have got that positive charge. also have some herbicides in the solution. When we spray our pre-emergence herbicides, what we are saying is that because of the presence of clay particles or minerals which carry negative charges, and because our herbicide has undergone the ionization process, releasing some charged particles, the positive charges or the positive charged herbicide is now attracted to the clay particle until it saturates that clay particle. Whatever remains of the herbicide is now in the solution form. That is the herbicide which will become available for use in killing the herbicides, in killing the weeds. So this process where we have the herbicide attracted to clay particles, we call it adsorption. The adsorption process. And the process where we have the herbicide going into the solution is known as the desorption process. Desorption process. So we've got desorption. We can use 2 arrows because these are interchangeable. Desorption and desorption process, depending on the conditions within the soil. So please remember that if we have applied the pre-emergence herbicide, it is prone to ionization process, releasing probably the positively charged particles which get attracted to the clay particles which are negatively charged. It could be organic matter which is also negatively charged, which also attract the herbicide. But for your own information, in Europe and the other countries which are in the what do you call this, which are in the temperate region, organic matter is an important issue in their soils. So it is the organic matter which is going to attract pre-emergence herbicides. But here in Zimbabwe and this region, our important issue is the clay. So the clay is an important element or issue for pre-emergence herbicides. In fact, on our herbicide labels, we calibrate our dosages in terms of the percentage of clay in our soils. If you have got a high amount of clay, we also tend to increase the dosage, because we are giving allowance for the herbicide which is attracted to the soil particle. So clay content is important for herbicide application. So clay content important for herbicide application. Application rates. The application rates are taking care of the herbicide which has been locked in the clay mineral. So remember adsorption and the desorption process. For organic matter, probably the situation is slightly different. We are now talking of sorption. If I can draw the soil particle, organic matter, I will just say OM. Then for the herbicide, let me use a different color. Now this is our herbicide in the solution. Now instead of the herbicide hanging around the particle, it actually enters the organic matter. It enters the organic matter. It goes inside it. That is the sorption process. So wherever the organic matter is an issue, we may need to know the concentration of herbicide in the solution. I can just write it like H2 representing the concentration in the solution, then H1 the concentration in the organic matter particle. Now sometimes a value known as the KD. KD value is used as an indicator of how much of the herbicide has gone into the organic matter particle. It's a ratio of herbicide concentration in the organic matter over herbicide concentration in the solution. Then there's also another parameter which is of interest if you are dealing with organic matter. We have what is known as KOC. It's another parameter which is used to evaluate how much influence of organic matter is occurring after herbicide application. So KOC is simply KD over the mass of organic matter which has absorbed the herbicide. So using these parameters in other countries, they can predict, or they can work out how much of the herbicide can be applied. So the issue of organic matter is important in temperate countries. Because OM can be used to determine herbicide rates. But of course, here in Zimbabwe, we use clay. So probably you may not really need to worry about the organic matter issues as far as herbicide application is concerned. After all, it has all these complicated issues. Unless you are in areas where organic matter is an issue. So here in Zimbabwe, we just stick to our clay content to calibrate herbicide dosages. I want to move on to another issue still on the absorption. It's the issue of paraquat and the glyphosate. I know these are post-emergent herbicides, but if they reach the soil, they get affected. Paraquat and glyphosate. Now with paraquat and glyphosate, if applied to the soil, they lose activity. Let me save this document. So they lose the activity. And why do they lose the activity? Let us address this issue. If we take our paraquat, we start with paraquat. And put our clay mineral there with some charges. Then let me represent the paraquat using these. So these are positives, positive charges. Right? So because paraquat is positively charged, it actually carries two charges. It is strongly attracted to the clay mineral. So paraquat is tightly bound to clay. This is the reason why if you apply it to the soil, it's finished. It cannot kill plants. If it is mixed with dirty water, we may reduce its activity. Let us move on to glyphosate. Whereas paraquat has got positive charges, glyphosate has got negative charges. So normally we should expect repulsion because glyphosate is negative, the particle is negative. But what happens is that we may have this situation in the soil We may have calcium, this calcium so calcium is going to be attracted to the clay particles because they have the positive charge, but they are not going to saturate this particle. Then glyphosate can come in. So we have an outside layer of glyphosate, because the calcium is now providing the positive charges. So you now have the glyphosate being attracted by calcium now. And they form this structure. In some cases, you may not have calcium. You could have iron, which is ferrous, or you could have iron in the ferric, which is ferric iron, or you could have aluminium in place of calcium. So when we apply our glyphosate to the soil, it will get attached to whatever mineral is surrounding the clay particle. And as a result, glyphosate becomes unavailable. Now, in some areas, we may not get clean water for spraying. It could be dirty water. So if you try to mix this kind of water with either paraquat or glyphosate, the herbicide is going to be absorbed by the clay minerals, and it is going to be, the solution is going to be diluted. So you may end up with poor weed control because of this. Poor weed control. So it is very important to note that these clay minerals could reduce the activity or they can reduce the activity of paraquat or glyphosate. Now we want to move on to soil pH. Let me save this. Okay. Soil pH. Probably you could be aware that 75% of soils in Zimbabwe have low soil pH, maybe around 4.3. On the calcium chloride scale. Which means that in most of our soils, poor weed control could simply be due to soil pH. Probably there's good calibration, and once we have this situation, application of pre-emergence herbicides is a real challenge because of this situation. Because low soil pH can reduce herbicide efficacy. Now, let us use the example of atrazine. So let us put atrazine here. So under low pH, this atrazine becomes partially charged. So yes, under low soil pH, atrazine becomes positively charged. Once it is now positively charged, let us look how it is going to behave around a clay particle. We put our clay particle here. Then atrazine, let us populate atrazine around the clay particle. So to speak, low pH causes atrazine to be positively charged. Once it is positively charged, it is attracted to the clay mineral. So we have atrazine which is now surrounding the maybe for demonstration purposes, let me remove this. So this could be the situation. Hence, atrazine okay, right. In this case, atrazine is not available. To kill weeds. And we are saying that pH 4.3, which is very low. So this is how soil pH can influence atrazine. In fact, in some soils around the Chiota communal area near Harare or between Marondera and Harare, I've actually experienced loss of atrazine activity in some of the trials which we're conducting in Chota communal area, because after applying the herbicides there was a very poor weed control. Now let us look at a situation where the pH is slightly, or is suitable for crops around around 5. So we can have our particle here. This is it is negative, high soil pH, around probably 5. So let us track our herbicide. Our herbicide is now here in the solution. This is available for weed control. Okay, so this is under soil pH about 5. So what can we do to improve herbicide activity? Maybe we can line, but let me move on to another herbicide which is not influenced by soil pH. The herbicide is trifluralin. This herbicide is not influenced by soil pH. It has 0 charges. The attraction to soil particle is very weak. It is attracted by what are known as van der Waals forces. These are weak forces. So it will be available for killing the weeds. So trifluralin it's not influenced by pH. If you are interested in what it looks like, It has a benzene ring like this, and down here it has got a carbon surrounded by fluorine. Then here you've got CH2, CH3, and here NO2, NO2. So trifluorine, this one is zero charge. Of course, this could be an interesting herbicide to trace what can happen to it because of all of these functional groups. But anyway, let us go to the issue. If of those herbicides which are affected by low soil pH, what can we do to improve herbicide efficacy? To improve efficacy in low soil pH conditions. Number one, you can liming soils. Number two, application of cattle manure. This can actually help to improve the herbicide efficacy. It can also help to improve nutrient uptake. I want to move on to talk about soil moisture. So we're through with the pH, soil moisture. Let us look at the wet conditions. We have our soil particle. So we have got a lot of water molecules surrounding the clay mineral. We may have bits of herbicides here and there, but most of the herbicide is in the solution. So water will surround the clay particle. As a result, herbicide is available to kill weeds. This is the reason why when you have moisture and you apply herbicides, your herbicide activity will be very high because it's available to kill the weed. Let us look at a dry condition. Dry conditions. Here we now have a lot of the herbicide surrounding the particle. So a lot of this herbicide is here. So the herbicide is tightly bound by clay particles. Not available to kill weeds. This is the reason why if we apply herbicides under dry conditions, usually there is poor weed control. And sometimes when we apply the herbicide under dry conditions, we want it to be activated. So sometimes we talk for herbicide activation. What is it? This is the application or irrigation, light irrigation, after herbicide application. We want to leach the herbicide into the weed zone. So that it can become useful. So application of herbicides under dry conditions lead to poor weed control. So that is very important when you are dealing with the pre-emergence herbicides. Now we just talk about plant and microbes. We are not going to say a lot here because we have already done these things in detail. Phase 2, phase 1, 2, and 3. So 4 and 5. Plants and microbes. We now know that these can break down herbicides. Via phase 1, 2, and 3. They provide enzymes which facilitate the biochemical reactions. We have already done this. So we can actually use plants and microbes to clean contaminated areas. Let's say there are pesticides in an area, we can plant crops or put plants there, or encourage microbial activity. Now, I just wanted to talk a bit about the microbes. Let me say microorganisms. Now, when we apply the herbicides to the soil, the microbes appear not to be doing anything to first herbicide application, to the soil. Microbes appear not to be doing anything on the herbicide. We call this lag phase. Maybe the number of microorganisms is small, the population is not big at this at first, or the microorganisms do not have the right enzymes to break down the herbicides. But what is going to happen is that these microbes are going to acquire enzymes or build enzymes which are necessary for herbicide breakdown. Our second application of herbicides could be degraded very fast. Because the herbicide, the microbes have now acquired the necessary enzymes. In some countries, subsequent herbicide applications may lead to poor weed control. further herbicide use lead to poor weed control because of this issue. But of course, in Zimbabwe, we haven't experienced this phenomenon. But in other countries, herbicides no longer work because of soil applied herbicides no longer work because of the microorganisms which degrade them very fast. Let me move on to number 6. We are almost there, if you are still there. If you haven't gone for lunch. I could be alone now. So number 6 is photo decomposition. So light could lead to breakdown of herbicides. This is why if you spray atrazine on dry surface, even if the moisture is now available, after let's say over 3 weeks, there will be poor weed control. Maybe atrazine will have undergone photo decomposition. The herbicides which are vulnerable to photo decomposition contain C, carbon, and nitrogen. These herbicides, like atrazine, are vulnerable to photo decomposition. And the processes could be mainly oxidation processes. So I'm not going to say much about this, except to say that when we spray our pre-emergence herbicides, they are likely, some of them are likely to be affected by photo decomposition. I now move on to the last one, which is number 7. Number 7, if you remember, is the soil itself. Soil chemical reactions. Herbicides could react with the soil. This is a typical test tube type of reaction. It's just a spontaneous reaction which can involve oxidation. Enzymes are not involved here. Reduction, and hydrolysis. Without the presence of the enzymes. Now let us, but yeah, it could be the same thing. We have actually discussed it. Factors which affect persistence and efficacy. So clay and organic matter play a big role. As we have seen, we spend a lot of time on this. But herbicide dosage is also important. How much is applied? It's another issue to look at. Then temperature. Could actually speed up breakdown of herbicides, and rainfall regulates moisture. So in Zimbabwe, in some areas, herbicide breakdown could be fast depending on rainfall. So we may just need to take a note on that. Just moving on to the summary of what we have said or what we have discussed before we wind off. It has been long. We need to remind each other where we started from. We talked about leaching. How it can influence the herbicides, for volatilization, adsorption, clay, organic matter, soil pH, and soil moisture. We spend quite a lot of time on 3. Microbes, we also talked about plants, then 6, light, photo decomposition. Then the last thing which we talked about was soil chemical reactions. With the herbicides. So in summary, this is what we are saying. These are the most important factors which can actually influence the pre-emergence herbicides when applied into the soil. They can affect persistence, how long they stay in the soil. These can also affect efficacy, the effectiveness of the herbicides. And this brings us to the end of this discussion on soil on herbicide persistence. Okay, we stop here.
Thank you so much, Doc. It was. We are here.
Ndafuna kuti maenda kuranjika iti.
Thank you, Doc.
Right. So this is it. I'm sure you can use this information to proceed to do your another assignment.
All right. Thank you so much. Have a good day.
Then there's also another lecture which I want. Probably I will just send you a recorded video, or we'll do it tomorrow. It's a very short lecture. Let us do it tomorrow.
Okay,
It's a
Doc.
very,
All
very,
right.
yeah, it's a very, very short thing, which I think you needed to know. But using this information, you can now deal with those assignments. One thing to note is that I don't know how you are going to revise, but it's like forced revision if you attempt those questions. We just want to make sure that we don't leave you behind. You know that policy that we carry everyone as we move.
Yes,
Yeah.
Doc.
So those questions are supposed to protect you from falling along the way. So do them so that you get the feedback. It will also allow you to revise. Are you writing next week?
Yes, according to what was said, we learn in 3 weeks. So this is the, I think yes, this is the last week of doing my lectures, and then next week is the fourth week. We are writing our final
Yeah.
exam.
So this is why we want you to, as you do those questions, believe it or not, you are actually revising.
All right.
So when you do what you call revising, I mean, that is something else. But the revising which I can get control of is that one when I see you doing those questions. Within this week,
Okay, Doc.
if you want a tutorial on a competition, I can arrange it. Not a big, it's not going to take long as well.
Okay.
So that you are in a position where you can attempt to answer some of the questions. Okay, I think that's it. Kami,
Okay,
let's
bye.
have any question.
Doc, are we going to get our assignments back before we go for exams, so that maybe they can help us revise?
Yes, you'll get the makapedza ese ere maassignments ndaanawo here kuno.
Aiwa, kwasara assignments 3 and 4.
Yeah, same with me. I submitted 1 and 2 only.
Yeah, as soon as I get your assignments, I will give you the feedback. It's going to be very quick.
Okay.
Yeah. If we do that tutorial on some of the competition, you'll be able to see where you went wrong as well. I'm not saying you went wrong. You could be right.
Okay, Doc.
All right, Doc. Thank you. Bye bye.
All right.
Okay, have a nice day. Bye.
Okay, bye-bye. Yes, uri right zvako? Uri kupi? Oh, uri kushamba. How is it? Let me stop recording and streaming.